Hi, I'm Carol Jean and I'm the socialautie. Welcome to the Socially Intelligent Autistic. Today I have with me Debbie Behling, who has been an educator for over 35 years. She loves her middle school students that she had, and she's also an author as well, and she is married and she has 3 wonderful dachshunds. And I know I left something out there, Debbie.
I do have children.
Yes, that's right.
But my the 3 dachshunds are the ones that live with me now. I have 2 children, a son and a daughter, and a grandson.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Debbie is joining us today. We are talking about our energy levels this week and why energy is so important, especially when we're starting a change journey. When we are starting change, and that takes more energy than any other time. And we've talked about the process of change and that science shows us that it takes 66 days for us to get from a point of beginning to a point of automaticity. And we know that in that first 22 days, in that destruction phase where we're taking all of our old beliefs and our old mindsets, and we're starting to break those down because we're trying to get to that good place where we're making those different and better choices to get the better outcomes that we're looking for. We know that that destruction phase, that's tough and it takes a lot of energy. And one of the key factors in our energy is our diet. And Debbie is a phenomenal educator, and she has been teaching people and leading and helping and encouraging people about how to approach and think about food. Food is the source of our energy when it comes to our body. So Debbie's going to be sharing a lot of her insights today with us. She is an expert in this. Debbie, here's the first big tough question. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
So just share with us a little bit, what is your personal experience with food and diet, and how has knowing more about food choices helped you gain more energy?
Okay, so when I was 6, that's when we first noticed that I was having problems with food. So from a very early age, I've had challenges with making healthy food choices. I've tried other diets. I've been on, oh my gosh, the boiled egg diet, the boiled cabbage diet, you name it, I probably have tried it. Been to Weight Watchers. But I've constantly, for years, struggled with making good, healthy choices with both food and exercise. The thing that really changed for me during that time, and you're talking about change, the thing that changed for me was that I began to look at food differently. And I began to change from the inside out. Because First Place for Health, which is now called First Place for Health, provided me with tools to look at myself from 4 different angles: spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical. Instead of just trying to change behaviors, it actually looked at the causes of those behaviors. And it just was life-changing. It's one of the most life-changing moments and times of my life.
So Debbie, what are some of the things that you noticed, like when you shifted the way you looked at food and how you saw it differently?
Right.
When you approached it, did you notice that when you had more energy because you were making those different food choices, that you were able to more actively live out the life that you wanted?
Absolutely. One of the things that people like me who deal with eating challenges is that we want to be in control. It's all about being in control. And the ironic thing is that we're out of control because we're eating in ways that are self-destructive. And so one of the things that I learned, and I'm still learning more about all the time, is how to look at food as something that is meant to keep my body healthy and active and fueled, instead of looking at food as something that provides emotional support or companionship or entertainment. Looking at food in totally new ways is only one of the many things that I have been learning about making healthy choices. Looking at exercise as something that, because I hate to exercise. I'm sure I'm the only one, but
You're alone.
I mean, I really hate it a lot. And I'm a very sedentary person. I like to read, I like to write, I like to watch TV, love to scrapbook. I've never been a person who liked to be physically active. But I began to look at exercise as something to do to make myself happier, to make myself more joyful, because when I exercise, I feel better. I really have to force myself to do it, but every time I do it, I always feel better.
That perspective shift makes your food choices really prominent.
It's almost like eating can become a form of worship.
You know, and we talked about that. You and I did a couple weeks ago about things that start to take our time and our attention and our precedence above God.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, the name of this ministry, First Place, came from Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. And the concept is that if we put God first and not food or anything else, the thing that's causing us to eat or whatever it is, if we put God first, then all of the other things in our life will fall into place. And so the goal is not to lose weight. The goal is to put God first so that we become more fit.
I think that from my own personal journey and from hearing some of yours and some of my other friends that have also gone through this, you know, I got very, very ill and I was on a lot of medication and I was bedridden. And so I gained 100 pounds. So I was 256 pounds at my heaviest. Now I'm 5'10". So it's not like I was 5 feet at 256 pounds, but I was 5'10". It's still a lot.
It's still a lot of weight. I'm tall too.
And when you stand up and you hurt from your head to your toes,
yes,
and you finally wake up one morning and you're like, I don't care what it takes. I'm waking up every day and I'm not going to feel like this anymore.
That's right.
And it wasn't about losing the weight. It was about feeling better so that I could live the life I wanted to live. I wanted to be able to play with my children, not say, I'm sorry, I can't, I'm tired. Exactly. Or go for 5 minutes and that's it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I talk about sometimes that, you know, some addictions, I guess all addictions, don't just impact you. They impact people that care about you, right? But for some reason, those of us who have issues with eating think, well, it's only about me. If I'm eating too much, and you know, who cares? It's not gonna, you know, you never hurt anybody with a hot dog. But it does hurt other people because you're not the best you can be. And besides that, many diseases are affected in one way or another by what we put in our bodies. And we can prevent some diseases. Diabetes is one of the worst, by eating healthy. So it is not just about you. Besides the fact that your body belongs to God, also your body belongs to the people who care about you too. And if you don't take care of yourself, it hurts them.
And on that same note, because everything is on a cellular level, what you put in your mouth feeds every cell in your body. And
absolutely.
Because, you know, I'm the science gal over here.
Yes.
I'm always going to talk about the neurobiology and the neuroscience.
Exactly.
But the other thing was, and what I realized, Debbie, and I think that a lot of parents realize this as well, and spouses, you know, any time you live with other people, is that my food choices, because I'm the mom, I'm doing the grocery shopping.
Oh, for
I'm
sure.
Teaching my children, and I'm either helping or hurting the people that I love, my spouse and my children, by the food choices that we're making and how I'm nourishing them. Am I nourishing them in a way that's going to help them and feed them in a good way? And so for me, that was sort of a byproduct of the journey.
Absolutely. And, you know, juvenile diabetes is at a epidemic rate in our country.
Well, and that's one of the big issues, and that's kind of where I'm looking, because you have some expert advice in this.
Yes.
So what are some of the tips that you can offer us that help us to begin to think about what we eat?
I made a list because I was afraid I'd forget something, or because I'm
all about a list, Debbie.
I'm a historian. We tell stories. We tell lots of stories. So I think I think some things to do first is to ask questions.
I'm all about that.
One of the and I find this in teaching my class, one of the things that is challenging today is that there is so much information out there that it can be so confusing. Today, it's okay to eat rutabagas, but tomorrow, don't eat them because they found something, you know?
Right.
It's like this. I swear I will teach something one week and the next week come back and say, well, you know, since I talked to you about this, I found out this and that. So, you know, broccoli is still good. Nobody's ever said anything bad about broccoli except the first President Bush. But,
Yes, that's true.
but other than broccoli, everything else is suspect, apparently. So I think it's really important to ask a lot of questions. First of all, I think a good place to start is, what are you currently eating? So how do you know what you are currently eating? You must keep a food diary.
See, we already started our journal. And so you guys know, I asked the question last week, describe your day from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. And one of the key elements that I asked you to think about is what you ate, when you ate, and how much you were eating.
And eventually, probably not at the beginning, but eventually you're going to ask yourself why you ate it.
Ooh, good one, Debbie.
Yeah, probably I wouldn't start there. That's gonna, some of you will figure it out faster than others, and that's okay. I will say that it's kind of like anytime you have emotional issues, it's kind of like an onion. You got to peel back layers, and the first layers come off easy, but when you start getting down to the core, they're a little tighter and harder to pull apart. So I'm probably about 2 layers into the core now. So the last 2 or 3 layers are tough to pull off. But the why is really important. At some point, if that is a real issue for you, and it's not for everybody, but if it is, you're going to need to ask the why. Why do you want to have something sweet to eat every day at 3:30? Whatever that is. And you'll find out because you're keeping a diary. So the diary should tell, and I will say that of all the people have done studies of successful weight loss programs, and that is the one common denominator of every one of them, is there is a food diary of some kind involved. You can just write it down and put it, like Carolejean said, be sure and put down the amounts and when you ate them, and what it is you ate. And there's some things you want to analyze about what you record. How much processed food are you eating? How much food are you eating out instead of eating in, making for yourself? And drinking plenty of water. Water is critical, but still drink water. So as you look at what it is you're eating, how much it is, what kind of food you're eating, then you can start to look at what needs to change. When people join my group, I don't tell them about the food plan until a couple of meetings in. I make them start writing down what they're eating first, so they can see what it is they're doing, because it's hard to change from something, to just jump into something blindly without looking at, okay, well, you may be doing some things right. So, you know, we don't want to throw that away. The other thing I think is really important is to look at this as a lifetime process, and something that is not a short-time fad diet. Everybody is not made the same.
Yeah.
Some people have conditions that require them to have certain percentages that don't follow that because of a certain condition they have. You need to do that. Whatever works for you. But the point is that you're becoming aware of what you're eating, and you're becoming aware of how that can affect you. And then you have to make changes from there, typically, because so many people eat out. I've actually done an exercise with my class before where we planned, we went to a restaurant for a meeting. And before we went, we planned what we were going to order. We looked at the menu. We said, okay, on this day, I'm gonna order this. So this is what I have to eat the rest of the day. So I'll balance out at the end of the day. We planned it all out. So planning is the biggest key for making healthy food choices. Planning ahead of time. You can either plan to fail or fail to plan. It kind of works that way. But Making healthy food using Instapots and crock pots. Oh my gosh, they're wonderful. Use those instead of buying convenience foods. Now you can go to a lot of grocery stores and they'll have meals packaged for you with the fresh meat and vegetables, and all you got to do is warm it. Those are the kind of things that are really good convenience foods, not the things that are in packages that have all the preservatives and a lot of sugar and corn syrup and things that are going to really sabotage your attempt to make healthy choices. So yeah, planning is the number one tip I can give you. Plan ahead, be very aware of what you're eating, and look at not only the quantity of what you're eating, but the quality.
So I just want to recap really quick because you've given us some
Sure.
amazing tips. So number one is to start to food journal.
Yes.
Journal your food, not just when you're eating, but what you're eating and how much. The second tip that you gave us is to start reading nutrition labels, to start becoming aware of what is in your food that you're eating. And your third tip that's really good that I found that helped me so much, in addition to those first two, was planning ahead.
Yes.
To plan your meals out. Well, Debbie, with all of this, what is the hardest thing about changing your habits around food? Because, a lot of us, we have dietary issues where there's certain things that we can't eat because we're allergic to them. As autistics, a lot of us have food aversions. There's food that we don't like the texture, we don't like the taste, it's a smell thing. So we get very specific about what we eat. So what are I know it's really hard. So what are some things that we can do to help change some of those harder things?
Well, the challenge to me, at least, is that food tastes good. We're just talking about bacon. Food tastes good. If food didn't taste good, this would not be a problem. Right. The other thing is that we have, over time, usually associate food with comfort, or food with something that we crave, and instead of getting the thing we crave, we get the food instead. And so one of the things that I think is really important is to look at the emotional triggers that cause you to eat the things you do that are not healthy for you. It is okay if you have an aversion to some foods. Okay, I cannot stand beets. I have tried. I had a bad experience with beets when I was in second grade. We have never become friends since then. I don't have to eat beets. I can live my life perfectly fine with no beets. So if there are some foods you don't like, that's okay. There are a lot to choose from. Hooray! Now, you do need to have some vegetables and fruit every day. Yes, your mother was right. Vegetables are important for you, but you don't have to have a lot. Just some. There's a lot of ways to eat them. You can eat them raw. You can eat them cooked. You can eat them juiced. You can eat them mixed in with pasta. That's a really good way to work it. If there's something that you really want to try and you think, I really would like to eat this because it's good for me, work it in with something you really like. The things, try something. If you don't like it, try something else and try it in a different way, maybe.
Well, what would you suggest? Because a lot of times, one of the factors that makes it hard for autistics is we don't really like to get out of our comfort zone.
Yes.
And when it comes to food, we know maybe that we need to try something new, but we're not sure how to go about it. So
Right.
Maybe what's a good, safe, kind of non-threatening way for us to try out something new?
So I'll tell you what I did with beets.
Okay.
I had stories with beets. I decided, I watch the Food Channel, which seems like I shouldn't do that. But actually, I learn a lot from the Food Channel about good ways to make food that will be healthy for me that maybe I didn't learn when I was growing up. We've deep fried everything, bacon grease on everything. And so rather than take away the taste altogether, what are some other things I can do? And so I really do learn a lot. So I decided that I was going to try beets again after all these years, and I hated beets. So I went to a restaurant because they know what they're doing. I didn't go buy the beets and try to fix them myself. And I had them in a salad where they were a small portion of the whole salad. And they were actually, I did enjoy them. So trying someone who's an expert at doing it and putting it in a small amount in something bigger, that might be one way to try it.
What a great tip, Debbie.
Yeah, that really, I really wanted to try beets more. I just haven't gotten back to them yet, but they're waiting in the wings.
we have to get a little brave, and we do it in our way, in our time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So Debbie, what is a way that you suggest to help with learning more about food and how it fuels us and how it can drain us?
So obviously one of the sources I would suggest first is First Place for Health. And I actually have a list of some websites that I'll be glad to send you, and you can share with your
Yes,
group
please
if you
do, and
like.
I'll include those in the
Because these are some places that I go to first. I may see something like I use my Fitness Pal for my food diary. There are a lot of great electronic food diaries that make it so simple to track your food. And it tracks your macronutrients. It syncs with my Fitbit watch, so I know what my exercise is. It's so simple. It really is, if you have the tools that work for you. But I will see an article that comes up on their blog, and I'll read it, and I'll say, what are they saying about broccoli today? And I will go to some of these other sources and verify or see what the science is behind it. The national government, our tax dollars pay for a lot of good sources. Harvard has a great source, the Mayo Clinic, and Johns Hopkins are other good websites that we use often to look, because they're always doing research about nutrition and the ways that our body works. We have webinars on our First Place for Health YouTube channel, and they do one a month. The one we just had this month was about the way our brain works and how food affects our brain. So,
well, I definitely want to share that
fascinating. I'll send the YouTube channel too. It's fascinating. I love, as an educator, love the study of the brain. And I like to say that God says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Sometimes more fearfully than wonderfully, though. I think one of the most important things, having taught this for so many years now, and having a lot of repeat customers in my class, I had one lady in this session that's with me now say, I'm so tired of do-overs. I want to get this right. And I think sometimes you just have to reach the point that you talked about, where you wanted to get out of bed and have energy to be with your children. Sometimes you have to reach the point of no return. Sometimes you have to reach the bottom, so the only place to look up is up. I don't want you to have to go there, but sometimes that is what needs to happen. I have certainly been there myself. But the resources that we have at our fingertips, take advantage of them now, so you can be more proactive about making healthy choices, rather than it's something you have to do because you went to the doctor and they say, well, if you don't change the way you do this, you'll be dead in 5 years. We don't want to hear that. We want to take care of our bodies so we can live as long and strong as we can. It really is a matter of life and death. It really is. It takes a great amount of work. It takes a great amount of intentionality, of dedication, but it can be a joyful adventure too. It can be a joyful adventure too, because through the process of learning to make healthy choices, you find out so much about yourself, and you become an advocate for yourself. You learn self-efficacy in ways that you might not otherwise have, and that's a gift. That is a gift.
That is a good point.
For someone who has any kind of challenge in life that makes life more difficult for them, or has hurts that need to be healed, this is a process that can be very, very meaningful. And I know myself, I've been through a lot of soul searching and learning to like myself in ways that I didn't before, because of all the hurt and pain of growing up as an overweight child. I have learned to love myself in ways that have helped me to heal. And sometimes that's the process that you're in, and that is a process that can be life-changing.
Absolutely. Debbie, thank you so much for sharing your tips and your knowledge with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
Include those apps suggestions that you have and books and tips and the YouTube show that you've got for us, so we'll know a little bit more about the brain and how it affects the brain. Because I think anything that you can learn that's going to help you make better choices is always the way to go, because the awareness
Absolutely.
grows.
It is a lifelong journey. It is a marathon. It is not a sprint.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the joy and the freedom that come from the awareness and the choices that you start to make intentionally about your food are really liberating.
I think liberation is exactly what it's about. The freedom that comes with this, when you think that you're trying to stay in control and you're really not, letting go is the way to have freedom.
Absolutely. Debbie Behling, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
You have been wonderful.
I've so enjoyed talking with you.